Gilg Jew, Gilg J as Gilg Nerach.
Showed you Claare na Gael's Babaliam Shuishaltacha. My name is Robert Cutting Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Did you ever hear tell of old Bobby Bob?
And in this bilingual programme, you'll hear part of it in the English language, as Nishu Clash and Perdelia Hilg, and you'll hear another part of it in the Manx Gaelic, Chinyanamera, the mother tongue of Ellen Vanning, the Isle of Man. As Bannacht and Durish, William Gell has brought us to Kirkbraden in his 1906 poem Man in Vegveen, a poetical sketch of the Isle of Man. In what he has to say, his timing was to prove unfortunate, but it's a useful springboard, even, to look at an aspect of the island's industrial history. We'll look at that this week and next week, in fact. Ta sin Jean Sciel Ferris na Brothers Grimm gaan 4 woorden. Ach, de 4 wie Nina Rie. Ach, henke wen rein de wei ski Jane Lianawek. Is er net gwy ori de darchi de wei na 4 boeren. As mus shen me wei, as detchel soul gus a Gael. Now, the thing about radio is that you can really enjoy the colours. Well, we can here because we hear the Welsh quartet Bendith singing a song called Llewia, the Welsh word for colours. Tashu geisjach rish radio vanning, stasiwn an asiwn, visgol ar sgelia mach, waidulish, ellen vanning.
Roedd na dden y dail teimlo'r hydref dan fy ngwadnau dan i'n gadael, gadael. Cerdded ffwr o'r llwybr heb ymwybod gollwng fynd, teimlo pleser pyr, pleser pyr. Can bod y lle mi
And I hope the synesthesia is working for you, because there we were hearing colours, because in Welsh that's the title of the song by Bendith, Lliwir, and more Lliwir later on. We've come to Braddon, and having sung the praises of the Reverend William Drury, William Gell now has a complaint to make. Here must we strongly deprecate the vandalism displayed of late. Was God's own acre out of date? Was it not callousness inbred thus to profane with ruthless tread the sanctuary of the dead? Now I wonder if this is connected with a letter that appeared in the Isle of Man Times on Saturday, January the 20th in 1906, and it was signed An Old Visitor. It appears under a heading, Douglas New Churches and Work for Our Unemployed. But near the end of it, an old visitor mentions Kirkbraddon and goes on to say, I would like to offer a suggestion that the open-air service be discontinued on the graves of our dearly loved ones, which is very objectionable. Why cannot it be held in an adjoining field and a raised pulpit used? Which, of course, is what was to happen when the open-air services at Braddon were held in the sloping field behind the new church, but we'll hear about the old style anon. Van fiach worden dobberen se Geel is Geel dunje I greid rawi nina ri, ach, vo wutcherach. Gede wel I arltach de groenelje, genellik or Gael den serek, gin de ine de ju weg de jebeldij, jor sjaan wen ons thuise Geel. Ons zinne je bij na jade waar karnen de gaar darry moest gieser glag dag leir is 3 len, te cora heen schiest de lai, as te karle. As me saw, te feliel de livrei, nina ri wijn wutcherach. Te chit ons kaart voor skullertarnik ker kabel dag lei, as is onze gummek maar een wen frinsljorischen trei show. En traslei te chit dersen riech gouds te na gadle, as te vergeel fenje a verege, as skriwen wiskinch te de guljurid. Te grei me wisse de 4 giri de groenelje, terwijl I ersen golgus kastjel Stromberg. Te let nareltach a genel vissege red. Te strevege me giert, der te chitges tai. Ach, ta voor korbaget de jinne ie. Well, a song now in the Scottish Gaelic by the band Glue, with Molly McGregor leading the vocals as she addresses the son of Ian, the son of Seamus, Vic Ian Ich Hamish. Well, the band members of Dlú got together as pupils of Scoil Gaelig Glasgow, which provides Gaelic medium primary and secondary education in Glasgow, and there they sang about, in fact rather to, Vic Gian Ichemish. Dan dunne chebbel de nauwer paljas a fóga de E as de U, leis féil as fin. As den fórgint buiach leis shen. Nis ten fórgint, mach, ten dunne braiacht J wel fissege a bol te chastel Stromberg. Ten fór grey novel, ach, de wel castles beg a tjire hege, waar de chuljuvalje as valje beg tjire, na gaurige mach. Ach, en hel kastel Stromberg rahagen Skumme shen, doten voor. Hoes eg na Griechen sa chobber te kassen beggen tjera, foden a smoon a shaw, nimme jean oru. As me saw, rennet. Ach, ons verdeel. As nish van dunje giri gulair les a journeege. Ach, renne voor guier, de hannach den aanrish leine gene saage, derre jinnige breirege, waar ngol de gedden stoor de wie, chit back. Tra henke breir rennet braiach jemach kastel Stromberg. Gelees te treer bij hem de lunje as de wei jint mach, nim jean a chasses beg tjira. Now, prior to the use of the field behind the new Kirkbraden, open-air services were held in Old Kirkbraden churchyard, and there are photographs with huge numbers of people filling the area and sitting, standing on the graves there. Apparently the open-air services in Old Kirkbraden churchyard date back to 1856, so scarcely a new phenomenon for William Gell to complain of, but he was, as I mentioned, perhaps prompted by that letter that had appeared in January of 1906 in the newspaper. The field behind the new church was first used for an open-air service in 1913, and then from the 1920s it became the regular venue right through to 1986. From Old Kirkbraden, we're now going to go across the River Dhu by Braddon Bridge, turn left, up past Braddon School, and then turn right into Ballafletcher Road, and down over the hill, on our right by the River Glass, is the village which housed workers, and over the bridge and down on the left is the place where they worked, and it's all this that William Gell writes about next. The international feel of a Cornish tune, in fact, for the dance The Newlyn Reel, played by the musicians of the dance group Ross Celtic.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Siodiw stasiwn y nasiwn radio fanning. Si Claare na Gael wysgol yr sgelia mach ag yn treid hon. Mer yn pîn Robert gytyn Carswell, Robert y Carslach.
Ever heard tell of old Bobby Bob?
Trwy dyn y deg y radio fanning to cair yw clash yn y Claare sio ar y siart yn lwg gigol yr sgelia mach yn chyd chyr sio. Yw'r ysbrw y craman eich rys. Ys rai en am y Claare sy'n rola. As my vish you brew a crammon podcasts, for this you feather podcast J. Claare na Gael yes. Ach, the cared you go through and reich here the podcast Joan yes, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Audible, Spotify, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, na Alexa. Now, soaring at our own sweet will, in lovely vale beyond the hill, note we the good industrial mill. Though Mannin's industries grow lax, still turn to good account the flax, providing schooners, sloops and smacks, the wings of commerce. May it thrive, continue very much alive, in future years a busy hive. Well, this part of the third instalment of the poem was printed in the Isle of Man Times on the 24th of March 1906. If we look ahead about 6 weeks or so, this is from the Mona's Herald, Wednesday the 9th of May 1906. Closing of Tramode Canvas Mills. The goodwill sold. Notice to workpeople. Consternation in Cronkburn. Mr. Speaker Moore's regard for his people. There was consternation in Cronkburn village on Saturday, which gave rise to a mental distress in most homes which has not yet subsided. The cause was a notice which was handed to each of the 60-odd workpeople at Moore's Canvas Mills. And we'll be having a look at that for this week and a bit of next week as well. Trefig ynt mach, highest jachs a chamber ega meru, as yicha der na casas and beg a chira ega. Ach, fors cha doddad fedden beg. Esh, runne corlesh casas and beg a chira helia, as cha rennod square by ronsige der a hoerad castell Stromberg. Ach, wij immer die tausenden de wieligen ersoel. Claare bi en ach voor dem arach kosnige shen doorten dunje. Ta kobbel de hoeren Sarah hem doorten voor, as niem koru ern reded. Ach sein nou chit back as goil Gael gen fedje tain sa time erin. Esh renden voor gimmerke ersoel en dunje, der a choustai je journey mus chidoer wijn gaastel, as doort hij, fodde u korkion kuja marne red de hon heen. As ersoel lesh. As haien dunje rosh, faien lei as fudne he, der a verjere renke kastel Stromberg. Veen a hai sluwde gles, as doddy fagen wen frins wa fovertjerach. Now this is an Irish version of a widely travelled song known elsewhere by titles such as The Farmer's Cursed Wife and various other titles, but here, as sung by Sean O'Shea, it's called Killyburn Braes.
There was an old man lived in Killyburn Braes, rightful tillyful day. There was an old man lived in Killyburn Braes, and he had a wife was the plague of his days. With me rightful doll, tillyful doll, fal the doll, doll, the doll, doll, the doll day. The devil he came to the man at the plough, rightful tillyful day. The devil he came to the man at the plough, saying one of your family I must take now. With me rightful doll, tillyful doll, fal the doll, doll, the doll, doll, the doll day. Says he, my good man, I have come for your wife, rightful tillyful day. Says he, my good man, I have come for your wife, for I know she's a plague and torment of your life. With me rightful doll, tillyful doll, fal the doll, doll, the doll, doll, the doll day. So the devil he hoisted her up on his back, rightful tillyful day. devils are playing with chains. Rightful, rightful, tillyful day. Two little devils are playing with chains. She up with her stick and she knocked out their brains with me. Rightful doll, tillyful doll, fall the doll, doll, the doll, doll, the doll day. There were two other devils looked over the wall. Rightful, rightful, tillyful day. Two other devils looked over the wall. They said, take her away or she'll murder us all. With me, rightful doll, tillyful doll, fall the doll, doll, the doll, doll, the doll day. So the devil he hoisted her up on his back. Rightful, rightful, tillyful day. The devil he hoisted her up on his back, and back with the man he went with the pack. With me, rightful doll, tillyful doll, fall the doll, doll, the doll, doll, the doll day. So it's true that the women are worse than the men. Rightful, rightful, tillyful day. It's true that the women are worse than the men, 'cause they went out to hell and were flung out again. With me, rightful doll, tillyful doll, fall the doll, doll, the doll, doll, the doll day. Rightful doll, tillyful doll, fall the doll, doll, the doll, doll, the doll day.
Sean O'Shea singing Killyburn Braes, and that was a recording from 1986, which he made with Davy Spillane, Donald Lunny, Niall Martin and Des Moore. Van ben Frins gimmen me giert a clew de glas, as eish wie gulstjach on egg na gatten. Bij gin taatjes achter honneke, gauw e toertje lirach a drappel soese clew de rauschnee. Ach, wij gesljouwenach, geleers wij gas na soes, hotje noosrisch. As treir en e fagen shaw, jene en de ginnige arach rauschnee, as wij ledden de grimsje. As rennie reich as an aid egg en goed slew de hannachten eg bunne clew, as de orachten on shenrish sledden blain. As dag lei, hondeke a wen Frins gimmen me giert as golstjach on, as gadod e riw rauschnee. Leider au, jiche maag as a weinege, as honneke 3 roesteren kagerig helia, as dilly eschen maag, de rauw mych in oren. Trachilad correi, renod square vai rishalit. Esch gauw toich rish boele, a derre je a jail on zaag daglach. A dilje maak rish, de rauw mych in oren. Now the workers at Cronkbourne received this notice on Saturday the 5th of March, says the Mourners Herald, notifying that after the 30th of June the establishment would be closed, and that their services would be no longer required. Compared with this, an earthquake and its havoc would have been but a passing event. It meant the breaking up of the home, social and religious life of the one industrial village which survives in our island. Change of occupation and residence for workmen with their dependents who have all their working life laboured in these mills, in many cases from 40 to 50 years, and the whole of whose home and social life has in all those years been spent in Cronkbourne village. Of most indeed of the work people, Cronkbourne is the birthplace, and with their children they make up a community of about 200 souls. The notice served to the work people on Saturday last was as follows, and we just hear the start of it here. W.F. Moore and Son have disposed of their business. Now we've heard a couple of pieces by Breton singer Madeline Ann from the northwest of Brittany, and here she's quite sure, dinner, it's mine, it's my life.
Good ahun, nekeder vawes evelarian, gwelari odin champel des undur, og sedet des en namser otrumen. Good ahun, nekeder gise vokaveren dem, nekeder gise vindi mizet, agere la playa wongos evin. Dine
I do what I want, I'm as free as the wind. So says, in fact sings, Madeline Ann, from Cameled, as it is in Breton. I wonder, is that related to camel? You get in the river Camel in Cornwall. But anyway, Cameled, it is in Breton, but Cameray-sur-Mer in French. It's at the tip of the Crozon Peninsula in northwest Brittany. The notice to the workers continues, the business will cease to be carried on in the Isle of Man, and Tremode Works will therefore be closed on the 30th of June next. It goes on to set out that those who'd worked there for 20 years and were 65 or over and whose children or relatives couldn't help them would get a small pension based on their individual situation, so it would vary. Workers of 65 or over who'd worked there for 30 years and who rented a cottage in Cronkbund village, again if their children and relatives couldn't help them, would get a cottage rent-free for their lives. Widows of 65 or over whose husbands had worked there for 30 or more years and again had no children or relatives who could help them would also receive a rent-free cottage for their lives or its equivalent in money or a small pension. Now this, of course, you must remember, was 3 years before the old age pension was introduced in the United Kingdom, and even then it was for those aged 70 or over, and so AWMO's provisions here were quite generous for the workers. Ren na rooster and square by. As wat geesjach. As ich het me gietamu. As esh. Ren het Claare ma ren ad rai. As Dillia mach en traas geert. De rauw mich in orin. As esh. As eis money in de jinnach Gael. As feather mach kirret wat jinno oru. Haya mach. As vrije jou kreen hoor wat kaga. Dinch ver jou, de rauwe en gedden maja, odders fastle dorser bij inrigen jorisch krankel er. Doet na jou, de rauwe en gedden kloge. As de rauw peger bij kormosje, as wij korer de weten jou agenach. Doet een tras jou, de rauw egge kabel, odders markjach roos de gulje wol, eer een kluwde glas. As me saw, voor de gage no na rauwed cordeel, jenach het gold soile generidden shaw ulje kujach, na scarrich fair as fair. Abesju de welschen cordeel conent doorte dunje. Sfeer een wel eugid hem, maar te ridden elje hem je fewid eer na smoe, de groenere hernen son shaw. Ross Collister and David Kilgallen with some tunes, a medley of tunes from the Manx repertoire, played under the generic title Polkas from their popular Manx Tunes album. Stasiwn yn asiwn sien the jar o radio fanning as Cartnish showed you Claare na Gael. Mish Robert Catin Carswell, Robert a Carslach.
Have I heard tell of old Bobby Bob?
Ach, dort and dunye. Signed out you know prowlus genered and show raw low. De redden maag wel sju ninch en nirnjes benten dou. Maar so rennet ligge de golsoes moena Gabel. As hugge de kloge me gietemush. As hugget de a maja stjaags a lauwegge. As geleers wol je je shoegge, gerouwin na soja ra agen. Ach, leeste me gietemush renne boela de mai, as Gillier mag, nish riften en mor ta shuish ngedden en unnus op mot ta shu talchen, for die de be shu jint boeach nish. Esh, renne markiach soese clue de glas. As tre renke gjatten na gaastjel, goere maag de rauwet vol glas. Ach, renne boele lesje waadje egge dors, as doschele lirach. As hule stjage on, as haie soes na Griechen gus a chamer roer, ongie van wen frins na saai, les caban as fien roi. Gedoddy fagen gouds van kloge me giet de mush. Now, consideration was to be given to people who'd worked at the mills for shorter periods as well, and particularly those who were subject to ill health or other difficulties, and workers who'd come from elsewhere. Of course, Belfast was an obvious place because of the strength of the linen trade in that area. Workers from elsewhere were offered free passage back to Liverpool, Glasgow or Belfast to take up work there instead. And the Mona's Herald continues. The closing of the works, we have authority for saying, is inevitable. The cause is the present-day trade and competitive system. What is most ominous about the transaction is that it's the goodwill alone which Mr. Moore has been able to sell. Had the works been sold also, there would have been hope that the new owners of the business would eventually have seen their way to carry on manufacture here. But the mills remain on hand, and it's to be feared that they must go out of use till some commercial change, not at present in view, can take place. Mr. Moore found it impossible any longer to compete with the factors at Dundee and Arbroath, and they in turn have all they can do to maintain against continental rivals who work under the cartel system. Now, the first piece we heard was by Bendith, the quartet Bendith, and it was a song called Claare, Colours. Now, this is another Welsh song called Claare, and this was the title track of a 7-inch EP released by Recordiau Sign in 1972, and this is a group called Shidan. And they were only very young, as you'll hear from this. Some of them, particularly Carol Parry Jones, went on to have a very, what was the word? Well, an excellent career in music and then in television and, of course, also as a comedian on S4C, Channel Pedwarek. Anyway, here she sings as a member of the group Claare. Welsh quintet Shidan, meaning silk. They were only about 14 when they recorded that, but they were already well-seasoned performers on the Welsh national stage through the Urdd Eisteddfodau. And I mentioned Carol Parry-Jones. She was one of the co-authors of that song with another member of the group, Gael Evans and William Morris. And they, of course, as I say, Carol Parry-Jones went on to have an illustrious career. That's the word I was trying to think of before. An illustrious career as a songwriter, a singer, a performer, and also appearing on television and, in fact, going on to a very good career in Welsh comedy programmes, which she wrote herself as well. And Carol Parry-Jones came to Llynllynach a few years ago and did an excellent concert for us in St German's Cathedral in Peel, and singing many of the songs that she'd written over her extensive career, as you say, starting here at 14 in 1972. Anyway, from the Mona's Herald now. Many within memory can remember the upspringing of that flourishing village erected by Mr. William Fine Moore. Of a truth, the people of Cronkbun Mansion and the villagers were a happy family, and much could be told of the kindness from the big house in times of sickness and suffering. The late Mr. William Fine Moore, who in every way held the respect of insular people, was adored by his factory hands. Mr. A. W. Moore joined his father in the business. The speaker was then a young man just come from Cambridge with honours. He went into the office for his first insight to the work, but for the last 20 years has practically had full control of the works. The Cronkburn Mills are the oldest sailcloth factory in the kingdom, and throughout their existence they've been wholly in the hands of one family. And it's easily understood that Mr. Speaker Moore has been and is suffering much from the inevitable wrench between him and his people. Ach tre henke fagus renne tarn by an enya veer chorde as chauistiachi se chaban lesh clink. Shoch an enya emma still ye. A shen de grey de wel een dunje had a hair me on Sean yes. Ach gather any shire through the cledden castel, gadure a chorer be. Weang ol mach, as a chora heen na hai a gabel, as a gauw by a clogger. As tre henke mach, de jen mach as en doris, honnekie, as renne ligge mach skreeg beg de wagen, as henke by een gabel, as gauwe ons na rije genegge, as huggy peg day, as doorty rish, nish, tower ligge sermi by een butcherach warm, as leneberach, higmudge, de vee poest. As me so shen en skiel en me sich a feach. Wel fod much goil tuig der na skiel as shen a prins ranag. Ons na shan train, trebe fos im doil de wishel son an unrid vau giri, ri beche, a spoech va uljen a ninenegge. Now visited to the island for the Coosh Festival last November, and also a visitor to Llynllynach a year or so ago, was Scottish singer Joy Dunlop. Here she sings some Persh de Beale.
Go spot on down. Cut the cat, it's just a crown. Beat the collie cow the stair. Shit it in the hook and found. Feel a big spot on down. Cut the cat, it's just a crown. Beat the collie cow the stair. 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 It's flying collie cow the stair. Beat the collie cow the stair. Beat the collie cow the stair. Beat the collie cow the stair. It's flying collie cow the stair. Sit me out of Calais. Let the do is battery. Sit me out of Calais. Get it to them up again. Sit me out of Calais. Let the do is battery. Sit me out of Calais. Get it to them up again. 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 It's young to them up again. Get it to them up again. Get it to them up again. Get it to them up again. It's young to them up again. Get it to them up again. Get it to them up again. Get it to them up again. It's young to them up again. Get it to them up again. Get it to them up again. Get it to them up again. It's young to them up again. Sit me out of Calais.
Joy Dunlop and two pieces of Persh de Beale, with Ron Jappy on guitar, Barry Marwick on fiddle, Gus Sterrett on bass and Ifadade Thomas on drums, and that was from Joy Dunlop's album Claare. A Gael en van nien sae en rie, de rauwen green heen van agen huish, Gael yindes, dag geert wie sail sheinori, kunte een eilejack. Vagest en chashel rioil va keel woer dorge on, as onze geel voor Sjaan wil je telen va chibber on. As treben le che, jinnach nina rie, gul rois jaagse geel, as sai she seg oire chibber voer. Now, William Gell's good wishes for the future of the flax industry and sailmaking at Moore's Tremode Mill in March of 1906 were scotched just 2 months later with the announcement of closure, which was to take place on the 30th of June, with manufacturing moving off island to Crewkerne in Somerset. And we'll hear more of the Moore family who own the mills next time. As gern wel meer soel gus Crewkerne cartnish, tammy soel leg and goed slew the gold of Alia. Chris Pearson is with you from 7 o'clock till 9, bringing you the best of chill-out music for your Sunday evening, and then at 9 o'clock Judith Lay presents Sundown, taking us through into Monday morning. We finish with some music from Cornwall, composed and played by Richard David James, Aphex Twin, with the title 14 Cornish Spreek 5B. And it's described as the St Nectan's Glen Waterfalls mix. St Nectan's Hermitage and Glen with its waterfalls is on the Cornish north coast. As Sinead Cartnish, and so until the next time, this is Robert Cattin Carswell, Robert de Carslach.
Oh, Bobby Bob.
Wishing you a very good night. Eve, I'm a chrieriu as orselier, as my yirian shed you will you.
Thank you.